What if I told you the moment before he touches you is the one that decides whether he forgets you tomorrow or thinks about you for the rest of his life? It's not your body that makes him tremble, it's something far deeper, something you say, something you do, something you are, right before it all begins. And once you understand this, you'll never chase his attention again, because he'll be chasing the feeling only you gave him. When a man is about to be physically intimate with a woman, his body might be in the moment, but his mind is still catching up. What most women don't realize is that the window right before that physical connection is a deeply powerful space, emotionally and psychologically. It's a moment where you can imprint something unforgettable onto him. Something that turns the experience from just physical pleasure into emotional memory. Emotional priming is what happens when you gently, intentionally stir something inside him before the physical even begins. When you speak from a place of connection, your tone low, your words slow and intentional. You create an emotional environment that his body and heart will crave again and again. You don't need to be dramatic or overly sweet. You just need to be real, emotionally present, and direct. That space, that pause right before the act is often silent for many people. But it shouldn't be. That's the moment to lean in, not just physically, but emotionally. Tell him something raw, something real. Tell him you've never felt this safe, or that this moment feels like the world is finally quiet, or simply that you're ready because it's him. These aren't just words, they're keys that unlock his deeper layers. The layers even he may not realize he wants to share. When you emotionally prime him like that, he doesn't just connect with your body, he connects with the energy around you. His senses tune into you at a different level. And most importantly, he associates the physical with something more profound. When a man feels both emotionally and physically safe and wanted, it shakes him. Because it's rare. It's rare for him to be the one feeling chosen, seen, and emotionally desired. Most men are used to performance-based intimacy, but when a woman pauses the moment and uses her energy, her words, her presence to invite rather than just react, he's pulled into her emotional world. That's not just sexy, that's unforgettable. He'll walk away remembering how you made him feel, not just what happened. And that's the beginning of emotional imprinting, the kind that makes him tremble long after the moment is over. You set the tone, not with seduction, but with sincerity. You don't just prepare your body, you prepare the emotional room, like lighting a candle before a sacred ritual. That's what emotional priming does. It makes him feel like he's stepping into something he can't just touch. He has to feel it deeply. And that feeling doesn't fade. It lingers. It haunts him in the best way. Because you didn't just let him in physically. You invited him in emotionally. And that is what separates you from anyone else he's ever been with. There's a moment right before intimacy when everything in the room seems to hold its breath. Most people rush through it, eager to get to the action. But this pause, this quiet, heavy space, is where real magic lives. If you want to make a man tremble and remember you forever, learn to master that exact moment. The secret is not in what you do, but in what you don't do. Lock eyes with him. Hold his gaze without smiling, without looking away, and without saying a word. Let the stillness speak for you. That level of focused presence hits a man in a way he's not used to. He's expecting movement, action, noise, but when you just look at him, really look, he begins to feel something unexpected, exposed, seen, and deeply desired. Eye contact this intense isn't something casual. It tells him he's not just another man to you. It tells him that this is a moment with weight, that he matters in this room, that he's not just entering your body, he's entering your space, your emotional energy, your full attention. Most men have never felt that. They're used to performance. They're used to being the ones who lead, initiate, and carry the moment. But when a woman can strip all of that away just by being still and present, it turns the tables. He feels emotionally naked. And that's what makes him tremble. Not because he's afraid, but because you've made him feel something rare. Vulnerability and power at the same time. You don't need to say anything clever or seductive. You don't need to arch your back or move a certain way. In fact, doing less creates more impact. The silence and stillness build anticipation. It makes him lean in. It makes him wait. It makes him wonder what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and why it suddenly feels like the air in the room got thicker. This is where feminine energy becomes magnetic. It's not loud, it's not rushed, and it doesn't chase. It pulls him in like a tide. Stillness is a power move. Direct eye contact is a silent command. Together, they flip a switch in him that says, this is not just physical. This is emotional. This is psychological. And this is unforgettable. What you're really doing is showing him that you're present, that you're not somewhere else in your head, not performing, not just letting it happen. You are in it fully. And when a man senses that level of presence, it slows him down. He becomes more conscious of every touch, every breath, every emotion rising in his chest. He starts to feel the gravity of the connection, and it roots him to that moment in a way that no fast-paced passion ever could. You didn't have to say a word, but you said everything, and that's why he'll never forget it. There's something wildly powerful about a woman who doesn't wait for a man to lead every step of the experience, but instead uses her voice, not to please him, but to express herself. Right before intimacy, if you softly whisper what you want, not what you think he wants to hear, you create a ripple effect inside him that he won't forget. Men are used to being in control. They're used to hearing about their own desires. But when you break that rhythm and say what you crave, what you're feeling, or what you need, it flips the entire emotional dynamic. It's no longer about performance or meeting expectations. It becomes about connection, about raw human need, about trust. When you whisper, the tone alone hits different. It doesn't need to be loud. In fact, the softness draws him closer. It makes him lean in, physically, emotionally, mentally. But it's not just the tone, it's the content. If your words come from your real, honest space, like, I want to feel all of you, or I've been thinking about this all day, or I want to lose myself with you, you make him feel chosen. Men rarely hear this kind of truth. It's not just seductive, it's emotionally shaking. It tells him you're not just there for the act, you're there for the experience. You're not there to fulfill a role, you're there to explore your own desire and invite him into it. That kind of vulnerability mixed with confidence is unforgettable. It doesn't come from a place of trying to please, it comes from knowing what you feel and being brave enough to share it. Most men are starved for that kind of realness. They may not admit it, but deep down, they want a woman who owns her desire, who isn't afraid to name it. That ownership creates something electric. It tells him, you don't have to carry this moment alone. I'm right here with you. I want this too, but on my terms. That balance of power doesn't scare him, it intoxicates him. When you whisper what you crave, you're also giving him direction, not control. And that difference matters. You're not demanding, you're guiding, you're creating a space where he can let go of pressure and just respond to you. That makes the experience feel different for him, less mechanical, more connected. It hits him in a way that lingers. He'll remember the tone of your voice, the heat in your words, the certainty with which you spoke. That's what makes it echo in his mind later, not the position or the technique. It's the emotional electricity in the way you communicated what you wanted. That's rare, and it's that rarity that makes it unforgettable. You didn't ask for his approval, you didn't play into his fantasy, you gave him something real, your truth in that moment, and that truth will haunt him in the best way for a long time. Anticipation is the most underrated form of seduction. It's not about rushing into physical connection. It's about building a feeling so thick in the air that every second without touch becomes more intense than the touch itself. When you understand how to use slow, intentional touch, especially in the moments right before intimacy, you gain a kind of influence over a man that goes far beyond the physical. Most people think that passion means speed, but in reality, slowness carries the greatest weight. When your hands move deliberately, exploring not just the obvious places, but the overlooked ones, his neck, the inside of his wrist, the space behind his ear, you trigger his nervous system in a way he doesn't expect. He doesn't even realize he was craving it until you do it. What happens in that moment is psychological. He starts to feel out of control, not because you're doing something extreme, but because you're doing something meaningful. Every slow movement says, I'm here, I'm aware, and I'm taking my time. It shows confidence. It tells him, you're not desperate, you're not proving anything, and you're not afraid to build tension. That level of self-control is intoxicating to a man. It creates a subtle power dynamic, not one based on dominance, but on magnetism. He begins to hang on every movement. He waits for what's next. And that waiting, that not knowing, is what burns the memory into his mind. Most women go straight for the destination. But the women who make men lose their minds are the ones who know how to take their time and play in the space between yes and not yet. You don't need to tease him like a game. You need to create an experience. An experience is living contrast between heat and pause, between closeness and distance, between what he thinks will happen and what actually does. Let your hands speak, but not with urgency. Let them speak with intention. Touch his skin like it has meaning, not like it's routine. And when you delay the final moment, when you hold back just enough to make him feel the ache of desire build inside him, you create emotional tension, not just physical. That's the part that sticks with him, because it's not just arousal, it's awareness. You become the person who brought him out of his head and into the moment. You become the person who made him feel, not just want. There's something hauntingly beautiful about being touched slowly by someone who's fully present. He won't just remember how your hands felt, he'll remember how time seemed to stop, how his breath changed, how the air in the room got heavier. He won't know why it affected him so deeply, but he'll keep chasing it again and again, thinking it was about your body, when it was really about the way you made the moment feel. And that's what separates physical from unforgettable. There's a different kind of silence that enters the room when a woman lets her guard down, not out of insecurity, but out of grounded, quiet confidence. Right before intimacy, if you offer a glimpse of vulnerability, something honest, something raw, it changes the entire emotional texture of the moment. Most women are taught to protect themselves in these moments. to appear perfect, seductive, and in control. But when you choose to drop the performance and say something sincere, something emotionally naked, it disarms him in a way nothing else can. It's not about oversharing or being dramatic. It's about giving him a piece of your truth, just enough to make him pause and feel something deeper than desire. Imagine looking into his eyes and softly saying, "I feel really safe with you right now," or "This feels different with you." Those are not words for effect. They are expressions of presence. They're not about needing him. They're about revealing something real in you, and when you do that, you strike a chord inside him that most men rarely feel during physical connection. You pull him out of his body and into his heart. For a man, that combination of feeling wanted and emotionally trusted at the same time is almost overwhelming. He doesn't just feel masculine in your presence, he feels honored. And that feeling becomes unforgettable. This vulnerability doesn't come from weakness. In fact, it takes incredible strength to say something sincere right before intimacy. Most people hide behind sex as a way to avoid deeper emotional exposure. But when you make the choice to reveal even a small piece of your truth without needing anything in return, you elevate the experience from something physical to something sacred. It's not about the words themselves, it's about the energy behind them. He'll sense that you're not trying to impress him, you're just being with him, fully, softly, unapologetically. And that kind of feminine presence is rare. It makes him slow down, it makes him breathe differently, it makes him look at you not just as someone he's about to touch, but as someone he wants to understand, protect, and be closer to. Vulnerability opens a door that seduction alone can't. It doesn't mean you're giving away your power, it means you're offering a version of yourself that's real. And that's what creates emotional addiction. That's what makes a man come back, not just because it felt good, but because it felt meaningful. When a man connects with your vulnerability, it awakens something deeper in him, something protective, something tender, something most men don't even realize they crave until it's right in front of them. And once they've felt that, once they've seen that version of you that trusts them enough to let them in emotionally, they don't forget it. They may not even be able to explain it, but it changes how they see you, and that change is permanent. There's something undeniably powerful about being fully present with someone, especially in moments of intimacy. When a woman gives her full attention, not a performance, not a routine, not what she thinks she should do, but her actual attention, something shifts. The energy in the room becomes thick with meaning. Most men are used to be engaged with on a surface level. Even during sex, they're used to movement, sound, responses that feel scripted. But when a woman stops performing and instead starts connecting, she becomes unforgettable. It's in the way her eyes stay locked with his, in the way her breath matches his rhythm, in the way her body listens instead of reacts. She isn't trying to put on a show, she's letting the moment unfold with intention, with awareness, with truth. Men don't talk about this out loud, but they feel the difference instantly. When a woman is really there with him, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically, it does something to him. It softens him. It quiets the part of his mind that's usually analyzing or leading or proving something. He starts to feel not just wanted, but understood. He begins to realize that the moment isn't just about pleasure, it's about presence, and that realization makes his heart beat differently. He becomes more sensitive to every movement, more tuned into every breath, more affected by every touch. He's not just with a woman, he's with you in the deepest sense of the word. This kind of presence isn't loud or dramatic, it's quiet but magnetic. It's powerful without force. It doesn't need to be planned or rehearsed. It just needs to be real. When you stop focusing on how you look or whether you're doing it right, and instead start asking yourself, what do I feel in this moment? That's when everything changes. Because now you're not giving your body, you're sharing your essence. And men don't forget that. They remember the way it felt when your energy wrapped around them like a blanket, when your attention made them feel like the only man in the world. That's what makes them come back. That's what makes them crave you even when you're not in the room. You don't need to say the perfect thing. You don't need to perform your desire. All you need to do is let your attention settle on him like sunlight. Let your eyes linger. Let your breath slow. Let your touch follow what you're actually feeling, not what you think you're supposed to do. That's when it becomes more than physical. That's when it becomes emotional. That's when a man falls, not just for your body, but for the way you made him feel seen, felt, and chosen. And once he's experienced that, nothing else compares. Not because you tried to be impressive, but because you were completely, fully, unapologetically present. When a man enters your body, he's not just seeking a physical experience. Whether he realizes it or not, he's also craving emotional electricity, spiritual closeness, and a moment that makes time feel like it stands still. The way you carry yourself in that moment, right before everything begins, holds more power than you've ever been taught to believe. It's not about performance, it's about presence. It's about choosing to connect, not just participate. When you emotionally prime him with your words, when you hold his gaze with intentional stillness, when you whisper what you crave, when you touch him slowly, when you share something vulnerable, and when you offer your undivided attention, he doesn't just feel aroused, he feels something shift inside him. These aren't tricks, they're truths. They're reminders that the most unforgettable moments don't come from what you do with your body, but what you awaken in his heart and mind. That kind of experience doesn't fade. It lingers in his memory, in his skin, in his breath. He may not always be able to explain it, but he will feel it again and again. And long after the moment ends, he'll tremble, not because of what happened between your bodies, but because of how deeply you reached into his soul without ever needing to try. That's the power you hold. That's the woman he never forgets.